breaking news from WRAL. Coverage you can count on.
Right now, part of North Roxborough Street in Durham is shut down. This is a live look from the WRAL breaking news tracker. What radio traffic is revealing about a crash that took down this utility pole.
And it's one more messy morning. We're looking at some scattered showers and a lot of drizzle and fog. I'll show you when it finally moves out.
The WRAL Storm Tracker is on the road, giving us a look at the conditions. This is a live look at I-40 West near Cary. What you need to know before you head out. It is 4:30 on your Thursday morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Renee Chu. Another dreary start to our morning. Let's get to meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner. Elizabeth, I missed the sunshine.
It's coming later today, finally. I know it's been a long stretch, hasn't it? We can definitely see some foggy conditions behind you. Just a little bit of rain left. It's moving out very quickly. But as we saw yesterday, sometimes we have drizzle that doesn't show up on the radar just because the particles of drizzle are so much smaller than a raindrop, and the radar is calibrated to look for raindrops. So a little bit out there right now. By the time we get to 7 a.m., it's really over. And then by lunchtime, we should really start to see some of the clouds breaking out. Here's a look at Futurecast. This morning, you could see that last little band sitting over us. I think it's moving a little bit faster than what's showing here on Futurecast. So I think we're pretty much done with it by 7. And then once we get to mid-morning, closer to lunchtime, we're going to see the sun breaking out. So it should be nice and bright this afternoon. Looking at downtown Raleigh, you can see it is wet out there, 58 degrees. So it's warmer than it was yesterday, considerably. And with the sunshine this afternoon, we do climb all the way up into the mid-60s. Tracking Melissa. Melissa is pulling away from the Bahamas right now, 100 miles east-northeast of the central Bahamas, moving much faster at 21 miles per hour with winds at right around 100. The only thing that's left is Bermuda. We'll push this forward and widen out the view a bit, and you can see it's going to pass just to the west of Bermuda as a Category 2. We'll talk about what has happened with that storm overnight coming up.
Elizabeth, thank you. This morning's rain is making road conditions wet as you head out the door. Kelsey Coffey is in the WRAL Storm Tracker. Kelsey, our early morning drivers need to be prepared for this. Are you still on I-40 West?
Yes, Renee, we are. And as we are continuing to move further west, we're starting to notice that rain picking up a little bit more. So we'll give you a live look now at road conditions here near exit 290 on 40 West. Back when we started our journey, maybe about 10 minutes ago, it wasn't anywhere near as much rain. It was just a really light drizzle. So just give yourself a little bit of extra time for your morning commute. Drive a little bit slower because not only are we seeing some rain, we're also seeing those foggy conditions like Elizabeth was talking about. So we'll check in with you guys within the next 30 minutes here in the Storm Tracker. Kelsey Coffey, WRAL News, live in Wake County.
Sounds good, Kelsey. Thank you. Be sure to download the WRAL weather app to stay on top of our local forecast. It's free and has more than a dozen radar views to choose from. Turn on push alerts to get important weather notifications as they happen. Happening now, part of North Roxborough Street in Durham is shut down after a crash took down a utility pole. Ali Calabar is there in the WRAL Breaking News Tracker with what radio traffic is revealing about this. Ali.
Renee, we're going to get to that police radio traffic in just a few seconds. I want to point you to what's going on right now. We see these crews. They're getting ready to replace that utility pole. We have a new utility pole in the back of that trailer there, and that utility pole hanging from those utility lines. This is where that crash happened, but I want to take you to video from the WRAL Breaking News Tracker of earlier this morning. You can see where that car snapped that utility pole. There's damage to that car, but there was another car involved on North Roxborough Street. This is all near Monk Road. That car had significant damage to the front part of it. This happened around midnight, and police tell me that when they got there, both of those cars were abandoned. Listen to this police radio traffic. They believe that these cars were stolen. And we are going to get to that police radio traffic in just the next 30 minutes. It says that both of the ignition steers were stripped, which indicates that these cars could have been stolen. We're working to confirm this. We're reporting live in Durham. Ali Calabar, WRAL News.
Ali, thank you. Hurricane Melissa tore through Jamaica as the strongest storm to ever hit the Caribbean island. It later slammed eastern Cuba, flooding rural areas and damaging the city of Santiago. The storm destroyed homes, uprooted trees, and washed out roads across western Jamaica. Other nations, including the Dominican Republic and Haiti, also felt the impacts of Melissa. At least 30 people were killed. Tens of thousands of tourists are unable to get home. Officials have not released the total number of people killed. We have new perspective on the 911 call made by a man who confessed to murdering his 4 children. Dr. Kamala Uzel is a psychotherapist. She listened to that call and says it sounds like Wellington Dickens was suffering from extreme psychosis.
Okay, how did you do it?
I beat on them sometimes. They didn't want to eat. I didn't force them to eat. I told them that it was a punishment not to eat. I did a bunch of different little things.
So it doesn't seem that the crisis is going on at that moment, but it definitely seems like the crisis has occurred recently.
Dr. Uzel says that trauma can lead to psychosis. Family members say Dickens was an Iraq War veteran. He also recently had deaths in the family, including his wife. Dr. Uzel says this case is a reminder to pay attention to mental health warning signs. A 17-year-old is accused of killing his foster parents in Hope County. Ted and Joanne Chavis were murdered at their home on Cope Road in Rayford Monday. Law enforcement found the 17-year-old suspect more than 60 miles away. He was at the Boys and Girls Home of North Carolina in Columbus County. Investigators say he took his own life when they got there. New this morning, President Trump is on his way home from Asia after meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea. Trump says he and Xi agreed on almost everything at the meeting. The leaders talked about tariffs, fentanyl, and access to rare earth minerals. After the meeting, President Trump agreed to lower fentanyl tariffs from 20% to 10%. Trump also said China will resume purchasing U.S. soybeans after their months-long boycott. He added there would be no roadblocks at all on rare earth minerals. The government shutdown is nearing the 1-month mark with no end in sight. Lawmakers on both sides of the aisle continue to point fingers at each other for the lack of progress. On Saturday, SNAP program funding runs out. Millions of Americans will lose access to food assistance. Also Saturday, open enrollment starts for the Affordable Care Act, or Obamacare. Subsidies that have helped keep premium costs affordable are set to expire in December. And that means some Americans could see their premiums double or triple for next year. And an estimated 1.4 million federal workers are now missing paychecks. Today, Senate Democrats are pushing one more trade vote to repeal global tariffs and restore Congress's power over trade. Lawmakers passed a bipartisan resolution yesterday to block President Trump's tariffs on Canada. The resolution passed by a vote of 50 to 46 after Democrats forced the vote without GOP consent. 4 Republicans crossed party lines. The measure likely won't advance in the House this year. Earlier this week, the Senate passed a similar resolution on Trump's Brazil tariffs. A group of business leaders hopes to continue rebuilding Western North Carolina's economy after Helene. The state sustained more than $60 billion in damage last year. About 2,000 businesses have received $55 million in business grants. Now a state committee is focusing on the area's long-term economic growth. Committee members say they are looking for ideas to meet the area's needs over the next 10 years. This includes education, housing, healthcare, and small business development. The group will relay its ideas to Governor Stein at a later date. Several state agencies teamed up to get a closer look at Highway 12 on Ocracoke Island. They used drones to capture images like this one. The high-resolution photos help teams monitor and protect the island's constantly changing dunes. The Toronto Blue Jays are one win away from becoming World Series champions. The Jays took down the LA Dodgers 6-1 last night in Game 5. They now have a 3-2 lead in the best-of-7 series. Toronto is looking for its first World Series championship since 1993. They have a chance to do it in front of their home fans. Toronto hosts LA in Game 6 tomorrow night. First pitch is at 8 p.m. You can watch the game on Fox 50. Major military move. President Trump gives South Korea permission to build a nuclear submarine in the U.S. What's behind the deal? Now hiring. Companies are bringing on thousands of seasonal workers. What it means for job seekers and the labor market. Rain is sticking around this morning. This is a live look at Apex. Meteorologist Elizabeth Gardner tells us when it will move out and the breezy conditions coming this afternoon.
From the WRAL Severe Weather Center, North Carolina's most experienced team of meteorologists.
It is 4:43 on a misty, drizzly, gray, kind of foggy type morning, but it won't end up this way. This is not what we'll see during the evening commute. We're going to see all this finally moving out. There's very little rain left, just a little patch there between Durham and Raleigh and then north up the I-85 corridor. The computer models are holding on to that maybe for a little bit longer than what we're actually seeing, but definitely a big drop in our chance for rain as we get through the morning. I think it's really going to be, it's 4:45 right now. I think we're probably really done with the rain by 6 or between 6 and 7. And then by lunchtime, the sun begins to break out and we'll have a much warmer afternoon than we've seen lately. And it's just going to be nice to see the sun. Our temperatures are a bit warmer this morning too, mainly in the mid to upper 50s. As a matter of fact, it's 60 in Goldsboro, 61 in Goldsboro, 60 in Fayetteville, 58 in Durham, 54 in Roxborough. So as the kids are heading out the door this morning, they're probably going to need a raincoat. In most places, it's just that drizzly. But by the afternoon, that sun comes out, highs climb back into the mid 60s.
That'll be nice. Elizabeth, thank you. President Trump announced a remarkable military deal with South Korea. In a social media post, Trump said he has given South Korea permission to build a nuclear submarine in the U.S., and it will be built in Philadelphia. Right now, South Korea only has diesel-powered subs. The country wants nuclear-powered ships to keep up with China and North Korea. Durham County wants your feedback on its new bus rapid transit plan. The goal, faster, more reliable bus services across the county. You can share your thoughts at a public meeting this afternoon from 3 to 5. It will be at the Durham County Main Library. Several retailers and companies are stepping up their seasonal hiring. Right now, it's hard to gauge how the labor market is doing because unemployment numbers are not being released during the government shutdown. Jen Sullivan looks at who's hiring and how to land a job.
Holiday hiring is ramping up. Many companies have added thousands of seasonal jobs, but it also comes at a time when many of the same companies are also announcing steep layoffs.
We've certainly seen organizations taking a little bit more of a measured approach as to hiring right now.
John Fay with recruiting firm Robert Half says the good news is seasonal jobs can provide some benefits and may turn into full-time jobs after the holidays.
You're earning compensation, you're building your resume, you're learning skills, you're getting professional individuals, you're adding to your network and getting references as well, too.
Target says last year, more than half of their seasonal hires were offered the chance to stay on after the holidays. The retail giant recently announced they're adding seasonal jobs, but didn't specify how many. The news, though, comes as the company announced it's cutting 1,800 corporate jobs. Amazon also announced mass corporate layoffs this week, but the company says they're still hiring 250,000 people for the busy shopping season. The U.S. Postal Service is adding 14,000 seasonal jobs, which sounds like a lot, but it's far less than the 40,000 just a few years ago. Fay says these seasonal jobs aren't just in the retail space.
There's a lot of customer service opportunities. There's a lot of IT opportunities. We see across companies and industries a lot of opportunities in the accounting and finance space.
So how do you find these jobs?
When you're looking for these opportunities, to do job searches on words such as seasonality, temporary.
Fay also recommends job seekers consider contract work. Many companies hire temporary workers for projects this time of year.
That was Jen Sullivan reporting. Halloween is tomorrow, and this is a good time to do a few safety checks for your child before they go trick-or-treating. The Cleveland Clinic recommends making sure your child's costume fits well, since they'll be walking a lot. If it's too long, they could easily trip and fall. It's also recommended to put reflective tape on costumes, and that way your child can be more easily seen at night. You could even give them a flashlight or a glow stick, which is fun to carry around. And lastly, check each piece of candy before your child eats any of it.
I would also have them set a limit to how much candy they'll be allowed to have that first night, so we don't just go crazy. And also a rule about what happens to the candy after that first night, where it gets put in the house, what are the rules about how much candy you can have.
That was pediatrician Dr. Gina Robinson. She also says younger children might be better off going to a trunk or treat event instead. It may be less intimidating and a lot easier to navigate. The North Carolina ferry system is bringing in heavy-duty equipment to help clear NC-12. Parts of that highway are back open. However, NC-12 on the north end of Ocracoke will stay closed. Pictures show some of the big problems we saw this week. In some parts, the ocean was so strong that it punched through sand dunes and covered the road in sand and seawater. It has just been a rough season for the Outer Banks with all these strong waves, and Elizabeth Gardner tracking a system that's bringing us that rain there. But Elizabeth, the Outer Banks keeps getting the brunt of these things.
They really do. You know, the Outer Banks just sticks out so far into the ocean, and they're such fragile, narrow little islands that, they're really susceptible to these lows that move up the coast. Fortunately, this one is not a coastal low. What we saw earlier in the week just ran right up the coast and just really pummeled Ocracoke and Hatteras Island again. This low is tracking more up the mountains. It is pushing a cold front across our area, but there's not a whole lot of rain left with that. What we are seeing is a lot of drizzle. It's gray, it's drizzly, it's damp, and a little warmer than it was yesterday. But this last little bit of rain from northern Wake County on up toward Virginia may be really the last that we see of rain on the radar. But the particles of drizzle are so much smaller than raindrops that may linger, and we may not see it showing up on the radar. We take it on through, say, 6 o'clock or so, and pretty much done with the rain by 7. I would imagine that we'll still see a little bit of drizzle. And then as we get through the rest of the morning, say from 10 to lunchtime, we'll start to see some clearing, and it is going to be nice to see that sunshine. Be a little bit breezy this afternoon. A 30% chance of rain. That's going to all be this morning. And then coming up in a little bit, we'll talk more about the fact that we may see a little rain late Sunday into Monday. I'll let you know if that will affect your weekend plans coming up. It's definitely wet out there. This is, of course, a live look from our Jimmy V camera down Fayetteville Street. It's 58 degrees. Wind's pretty light, southwest at 3 miles per hour, and we're looking at winds at about 0 to 5, 6 miles per hour. So not as windy as we've seen lately, but later this afternoon, after the front passes us by, we may see some gusts 20 to 25. Around town, we'll see some gradual clearing. Temperatures will be in the mid-60s for highs, which will feel very comfortable, and that continues all the way into the weekend. Looks gorgeous Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's going to be a beautiful Friday for Halloween, and then Sunday we may see increasing clouds and a small chance of a shower. Trick-or-treat time temperatures will be in the mid-50s, so that should be pretty comfortable for all the trick-or-treaters. Saturday, of course, we go back to standard time, so we set the clocks back, but a really nice, comfortable 7-day forecast. We did see some significant rain. I'll show you how much we've seen so far.
Oh, that extended forecast looks great and ideal trick-or-treating weather. Elizabeth, thank you. Big birthday vibes. A Hollywood favorite hits 80. Plus a soundtrack gamers will love. That is all ahead in today's Hollywood Minute. Helping you save money. In the next hour, 5 on Your Side takes a look at how military families can take advantage of discounts during an uncertain time. Welcome back. It is 4:54 as we take a live look at RDU, and you can see a few raindrops on the lens there as we still have some light rain still lingering around for the morning, but hopefully it'll move out in just a few hours and we can actually see some sunshine this afternoon. It'll be warmer too. A hit video game soundtrack goes vinyl. Daniel Radcliffe heads back to Broadway, and Henry Winkler turns 80 years old. Here's David Daniel with today's Hollywood Minute.
Music and video game lovers, listen up. The memorable score of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is coming out on vinyl. Nintendo and Laced Records are putting out a double LP and an 8 LP box set, available in limited edition color vinyl or standard black. You can pre-order now. The discs are due out June 19th, 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of the things that really drew me into it.
Daniel Radcliffe is returning to Broadway. The Tony-winning actor, who's also done some film work, is set to star in the one-man show Every Brilliant Thing. Previews begin February 21st, and a 13-week engagement starts March 12th.
it became a second profession.
Henry Winkler has had several careers: television star from Happy Days to Barry, film roles including Scream and The Waterboy, producing and directing, and co-authoring more than a dozen children's books. And today is his 80th birthday. Happy birthday, Henry Winkler. In Fonziewood, I'm David Daniel.
Do you know, I had a chance to meet Henry Winkler. He actually came to WRAL for an interview. I'm thinking, oh, it's got to be at least more than 10 years ago. But happy birthday to him. So cool. Here at WRAL, we are celebrating one of our own. Capital Broadcasting Company's Director of Technology, Pete Sockett, just won a top honor from the North Carolina Association of Broadcasters. The NCAB honors the best of the best in our industry. Pete was awarded the Hargrove Community Leadership Award. It recognizes managers who have made significant contributions to the communities served by their radio or television stations. We are so lucky to have Pete on board. Breaking in Durham, part of North Roxborough Street is shut down right now after a crash took down a utility pole. The new information radio traffic is revealing. New rules coming. Durham schools could soon crack down on classroom devices. What this means for students and why the change is happening now. And we are monitoring wet roads for you this morning. The WRAL Storm Tracker is out there right now, checking out any trouble spots for the morning commute.